Penguin Random House Audio presents Lessons for Living, What Only Adversity Can Teach You by Phil Stutz. Read for you by J.C. Mackenzie. Dedicated to Barbara McNally, who started it all. Introduction. Maybe you're here because you've read The Tools, or because you saw me in the Netflix documentary called Stutz. I've become known as the psychiatrist to the stars, a descriptor that bothers me as much as it likely bothers you. The best thing I can do to refute that misconception is to tell you what I've learned as a psychiatrist over the last 40 years. Along the way with my partner Barry Michaels, I developed a new kind of psychotherapy. It differs from the old model in one crucial respect. It works. I grew up in New York and I attended City College of New York and NYU Medical School, which is where I received my medical and psychiatric training. After that, I was a prison psychiatrist at Rikers Island for 5 years, as well as carrying on a private practice. But I was becoming increasingly demoralized about the inability of psychiatry to really help patients. A move to Los Angeles did nothing to make me more hopeful. I was still determined to find a better way, but with no one to turn to for advice, I felt rudderless. Out of pure stubbornness, I kept looking anywhere and everywhere, for ideas, for answers, until I finally found them in the one group I never thought to search, my own patients. I found that if I threw out the rule book and treated them with the respect any human being would want, rather than as a collection of genetic or psychological anomalies, they were willing to go wherever my instincts led me. This was fortunate because the only way to proceed was through trial and error. With my patients' encouragement, I began to develop something I call the tools. The tools were very different from psychotherapy as it was practiced at that time. I had grown so frustrated because I felt as if traditional therapy was designed to make it impossible for patients to change. The patient was either trapped in a past that no longer existed or living in fantasy about a future that hadn't arrived yet and might never. Only the tools could open the door to the infinite wisdom of the present. There were 3 qualities that identified someone that was in tools therapy. 1. Homework. It's naive to think your experience in a therapist's office is enough to change your life. Life isn't a static thing that you can cover over with a fresh coat of paint. Life is a process. If you want to change a process, you need to work on it daily. 2. Forward motion. Old school therapy kept you in the past. The highest value is placed on understanding what happened to you back then. When you use the tools, the highest value is in taking the next step into your future. 3. Higher forces. We are only a tiny part of an infinite universe. On our own, we can do nothing. But in a silent miracle, the universe puts its energies at the service of human evolution. This is most obvious when a person's life is falling apart. Financial ruin, emotional rejection, low self-esteem, etc. It's in desperation that we become willing to go beyond our limited view of the universe. If we don't recognize the presence of higher forces, they can't help us. We need to feel them in the present. The tools give us the ability to embody higher forces. Barry and I knew that this information was too important to keep to ourselves. Together we wrote The Tools and its follow-up, Coming Alive. Both of them were well received and opened the door to a wider audience. The books represented an approachable way to bring higher forces into our lives. But we also knew there was an aspect of the tools that couldn't be conveyed in the how-to model those books were written to be. There was a whole other level to the concepts, but I couldn't figure out how to get it across. Time passed. One day I was looking around my office and came upon a bunch of short essays I had written in the 1990s and early 2000s, sitting on a shelf. I had written them after I had developed the tools as a practice, but before Barry and I had written the tools as a book. I'd forgotten about them. They were essentially lost to time. I had written them for a health and wellness newsletter called A Real Life, which was ahead of its time. This was pre-internet. The newsletter was an actual paper locally distributed. Its publisher, Barbara McNally, had been interested in my work and gave me the opportunity to write a column presenting some of my ideas. Each essay was about a common problem, like depression, rage, and loneliness. Finding them on my shelf, I remembered that the feedback we got from the newsletter readers, even those who devoured self-help books, was that these pieces felt like something totally new. I realized that I needed to release them to a broader audience. Not only do they address the larger, deeper themes I was trying to get across, but they're even more relevant today than they were when I was writing them all those years ago. Why? Because the problems they address have gotten worse, not better. As a psychiatrist, I see the effect of this worsening every day. The pandemic, the proliferation of social media, greed, the dysfunction of our divisive political system. All of these things have made our sense of isolation even worse. It used to be that the patient would walk into my office and leave the world's problems outside until they were done talking about themselves. Now the patient's personal problems have to stay outside, and it's the world's problems that demand attention in session. This makes sense. It's no longer possible to believe that our personal problems don't impact the world, and vice versa. I expand on this phenomenon later in the audio program. I should also mention that I went through the essays and changed them so they sit comfortably in today's world, which took shockingly little adjustment. Still, I don't think listeners need to hear about my beeper going off. Therapy without faith in higher forces is likely to leave you feeling worse than before. Working on yourself doesn't have to be selfish. If you do, you have more energy, not less. That energy will transform the world. This book shows you why and how. Just an illusion. Our culture denies the nature of reality. It holds out a promise that you can live in an ideal world where things come easily, a world in which unpleasant experiences can be avoided, where there's never a lack of immediate gratification. Worse, it suggests that if you do not live in this world, something is wrong with you. This ideal world is a realm of illusion. No matter how promising this world seems, it does not exist. Be honest, your own life experiences have been far from ideal, but what you have experienced is what is real, not what you would like to experience. In short, the nature of reality is this. Life includes pain and adversity. The future is uncertain. Accomplishment of any kind requires discipline. You are not special. No matter what you do, you cannot avoid these aspects of life. This will never change. There is love, joy, surprise, transcendence, and creativity as well, but these never occur separately from the above 5 points. Yet there always seem to be others who are exempt from the adversity of daily living. The media portrays them to us. They are physically more perfect. They do not worry. They are certain of their course through life. They never lack for love or companionship. They are secure in themselves. These people seem to have abolished the negative aspects of life. And this power makes them special. Products are marketed with promises of putting us in this group. We all feel a pressure to convince others that we are part of it. This holds true for the poor kid unsure if dinner is coming and the billionaire with 6 homes. When everyone acts as if a fantasy is real, it begins to seem real. But only for someone else. In your own life, you find yourself unable to take a risk. You don't know how to make a decision. Your financial future is uncertain. Your face has a new wrinkle. There is no time to parent properly. You simply cannot get life under control. There is nothing wrong with this. This is how it feels to be alive. The problem is that the other group has become the standard, and self-esteem starts to depend on being like them. An adverse event feels like something is happening that's not supposed to be happening. The natural experiences of living make you feel like a failure. Is there another way? Can you live life with its conflicts, uncertainties, and disappointments and somehow feel good about yourself? You can. But it requires a completely new orientation. The first step is to realize that life is a process. Our culture leads us to
Sample complete. Ready to continue?